Here with Paul Weber from KLIM, the Mad Scientist. Right now he's going to take us on a walkthrough of Gore-Tex and kind of how that product works. You know, what I want to talk about is, like, a lot of times people get confused with 2-layer versus 3-layer versus Z-liner. Majority of the brands that make a motorcycle garment are using a Z-liner, which is a hanging liner in between the outer shell fabric and the liner. So this is actually EPTFE, the Gore-Tex membrane that's then hung inside the garment. Okay. So this provides the waterproofness and the breathability. The reason people would do that is then they only have to seam seal where it's stitched, therefore by the zippers. So when you think about a KLIM garment, you know, we have sometimes up to 27 meters of seam seal in a garment, because every place we stitch, we have to come back and do a whole nother operation of seam sealing it with a Gore-Tex seam seal. So that's why people, it's a lot less expensive. So here you have the Z-liner, and then from there I was going to show you 2-layer. So what that means is you have the fabric that gives you the abrasion, tear, and tensile properties of the fabric, and then directly laminated to that with the Gore-Tex's special secret sauce is the EPTFE, or the Gore-Tex membrane. Now what they call this is, they call this an engine internally. So what that describes is the layers of glue and different substances they use to attach the EPTFE to the garment. This would be considered performance. So this is less breathable, you could say, than Pro by 30% in a laboratory. So what that means is this is a 2-layer, and then here you have a 3-layer. So you have the exact same shell fabric, you have the engine inside of there, but it's actually a little bit different construction, and then laminated to the inside of it is a very light scrim. So this is now called 3-layer because there's 3 layers laminated together. Where it gets confusing is when you construct a garment. A garment that has 2-layer construction always has a hanging liner to cover up the Gore-Tex.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas a garment that, like our Badlands, almost always, you know, we use everything in the Badlands, Kodiak, they are all Pro Shell, and they have 3-layer Gore-Tex because that's a requirement. It gives it more durability. The 3rd layer just gives you a protection against abrasion. Vapor is 20,000 times smaller than the opening in the Gore-Tex EPTFE. And then a water droplet is 400 to 600 times bigger than the hole. Okay. So then vapor, or your body juices, smells, and, you know, like what you're seeing coming off of here, a little bit of steam, it can get right through it. Now what the difference is in the Pro Shell versus the Performance, it literally is in how they are attaching it to the membrane. So that's actually a different EPTFE altogether, but it's also a different way they attach it. And that's where actually it's behind closed doors and you just get peeks, but the
Mad Scientist, for sure. So right now Paul's going to show us exactly how Gore-Tex works and the difference between Gore-Tex and, say, a Hipora membrane, right?
Yep.
So what are we looking at today?
So what I want you to do is we're actually going to do this demo because it's really hands-on. And we used to just do it with the Gore-Tex so you could have this wow thing, but what I found is if I can do it with 2 hands, one with the exact same amount of time with a competitor laminate versus a Gore-Tex EPTF laminate, the results are very dramatic and you can just feel it. So what I want you to do is I want you to put both hands in the water, then bring them out and try to dry them off. This is the Hipora one.
It was
the hand, fine. It's a Mickey Mouse mitt. So.
Oh, nice.
All right, and we got our timer over here. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna wrap them both up and hold them. So go ahead and put them both in there and move them around. Open and shut your hands to create heat. What we're trying to simulate is what happens with the temperature change.
I'm definitely getting really cold on the right hand.
You know, and so what you find is, like, if you can stay dry, you have a chance of staying warm. And if you don't stay dry, you're honestly, you feel the cold a lot faster. We've got 30 seconds.
You're at 20 right now.
Okay.
Dude, it's freaking cold.
Yeah, one's like almost painful. Like, you know, I'm gonna start crying,
like hypothermia right now.
And you're like, what's this guy doing to me? So now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull your hands out, and I want you to tell me what the difference is between the feeling and also the way that the wetness and the dryness comparison.
So you can actually see on my hand here, you see it's actually damp, and this one is completely dry. That's very interesting.
But
So
it's
the one that was
interesting-
in the Gore-Tex glove, it took that moisture and it whipped it out, versus the other
Yeah.
one was pretty much
Yeah.
still stuck inside there.
So the cold water helps because really the way Gore-Tex works is the delta change between the hot and the cold. So the colder it is outside, the better it works. And the hotter it is outside, the harder harder time it has working. So what we're really
So
doing,
basically the Hipora, the reason that I was feeling damp on the Hipora probably isn't because it was getting water from the outside. It was because my perspiration on the inside wasn't able to expel as good as it should.
because the breathability properties, when you compare them side by side, are just different. The Gore-Tex had a better ability to get the moisture out. So at the exact same temperature
That's
on the
crazy.
same body, you can see the difference in how it actually works.
All right, Paul, that demonstration was absolutely astounding. Now, there's multiple different types of waterproof materials that are used in the power sports industry. Like I said, I just tried this test with a Hipora membrane. We're going to grab a different membrane, and I want Travis to step behind the camera here so he can feel exactly how amazing that Gore-Tex works. Travis, you're going to get cold.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
So what I want you to do, I'm gonna put both hands in the cold water. All right, so now you've just gotten you're wet now. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the SympaTex waterproof membrane hand thing on this hand, and we're gonna put the Gore-Tex EPTFE one on this.
Okay. Like I'm a little kid trying on gloves for the first
Oh,
time.
you missed your thumb. There we go.
Tricky.
It's actually a lot harder than you'd think.
Yeah. All right.
So what's interesting is people's body temperature makes a huge difference. We're gonna now submerge this. We're gonna start a timer for 30 seconds. I need you to open and shut your hand to create the heat. And we're just holding in the heat. And the whole idea is I want you to feel the difference, because when one hand stays dry versus one being wet, there's a huge immediate change. You feel like how cold the sensitivity is to your hand.
May I ask why 30 seconds?
You know, because honestly the test you're supposed to do for 2 minutes.
Where are we at?
20. But most people can barely make it for 30 seconds.
My right hand's really cold right now. I'm telling you, my right hand's cold.
So the reason we only do it for 30 seconds. Okay, pull it out. So now what I want you to do is I want you to tell, you've already told us which hand's cold, but now tell us how that looks as far as like wetness. And now look at which one's dry, which one's wet. And so you got this effect that, not only do you have this, your brain is one of the best computers in the world. You, like thermocouples, everything's hooked up. You're like, this sucker's freezing, this one's cold, but not frozen.
How would you even stay concentrated on a motorcycle if that's happening to you?
Yeah. So being dry allows you to be warm. Once you get wet, you're gonna freeze. It's just the way it works when
Yeah,
it's cold.
I'm sure even up here in these kind of conditions. It's,
Yeah. Well, you think about evening rides, like a lot of times, especially when October's here, November, it might be 20 degrees, but the roads don't have ice on them. So I'm still riding my motorbike up here, and you never know what's gonna happen. So you just gotta be ready.
All right, now that we've done this test here, we have another test that we're going to show you on kind of how Gore-Tex works. If we can get this one off the table. We have another one that we're going to use hot water. We're going to show kind of a neat thing that's going to happen there. Before that, let's talk about denier a little bit.
Okay.
So we have 840 denier. We got all kinds of different deniers, and the Cordura was the one that first really brought denier to my mind. You
Right.
had duffel bags and backpacks, because that's the
Yeah.
genre of Cordura that I was used to dealing with. And of course, the higher the denier, the more strong
Yeah.
it is, and the more durable
Yep.
it is. And how do you guys use that here at KLIM?
So that's one of the biggest challenges to get people over is to just talk about denier, because like when I look at the tear, tensile, abrasion numbers, with new technology and new fibers and new resins, denier doesn't matter as much. What matters is how it performs on tear, tensile, and abrasion. And now even with the Cambridge test or with the new Darmstadt test, all these tests allow you to see how things actually perform when they're getting abrade or tear. I'm just going to do a really quick example to you. I'm going to show you a denier of a product that's higher. So it's like a higher denier, so you think, oh, this is going to be stronger.
More strong, yeah.
And then I'm going to show you one so I'm going to compare a 600 denier versus a 500 denier.
Okay.
And we're going to try, this is a redneck test, so let's see how it goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this denier test. This is a 600 denier. It's on a competitor pant, motorcycle pant. And I just wanted you to give us a little Idaho tear.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So then this is,
But that felt rough. It felt like it would be protected.
yeah, it felt, and from a denier standpoint, it's a 600 denier. This is a 500 denier. This is our new carbonite ripstop that we've used, what we've learned over the last several years. I want you to give that a little tear too.
Oh gosh.
So,
You grab that side.
We'll be able
Ready?
to tear it.
1, 2. Dude, not really. He's pulling me off the table.
You can tear it. It's like it'll about pull your shoulders
Dude,
out.
carbonite ripstop. That's impressive.
So,
Now,
like-
how did you find that?
So it's like the thing is you got to talk about the system again. It's a lot more than just denier, right? Because all that's telling you is like silk is 1 denier, and so it's over a given distance. That's how it weighs 1 gram. Versus this is a 500 denier. You take the 1 strand of this material, you take this strand, and you put that over the same given distance as the silk that's 1 gram. This is 500 grams.
Oh,
That one's
interesting.
600 grams. But it doesn't talk about what the building blocks are. So when we start at the building blocks of how you bake the material. So the chips that are used to make the resin. So we went to Invista, the owners of Cordura, and we're like, what is the most durable resin you start with? It's what we use in our radial tires. That is, that is the resin bead that has the best durability.
Incredible.
So then we found a mill that had the ability to use that. And then what we actually did next is we figured out that if you can make a high tenacity yarn, which is when you direct draw it, to anneal the yarn, you let it drop three stories roughly, and it turns from a liquid into a solid. But if you have a spinner at the bottom and you pull that 9 times faster than gravity, you elongate and align all the molecules. So it gets super, the tensile of it is through the roof, just like tempered glass.
Okay.
So what I want you to do now, this is what most outdoor brands, this is a Poly Encore. This is what is normally in your outerwear. So go ahead and just give that a good Idaho tear. So
It's not very strong.
then this is what we use in all of our thread. This is a Tech 70. And I used to do the demo and I would break it, but I've cut my hands too many times. So I just want you to give it a tear, but I don't want you to cut your hands.
Oh, dude. It's like fishing line.
Yeah. So what this is this is 3 bundles. So if you untwist this, you'll see 3 bundles in there. Each one of those has multiple picks. So when we designed this fabric, the standard was 28 picks per yarn. We increased that by 5, just to 33, but our tear and tensile went through the roof. And then we found that there's only like 3 mills in the world that still have the ability that run Cordura that can do the twisting of the yarn after it's constructed. So we figured out, like, if we twist it too much, we make a screen door. But if we twist it the exact right amount, every time we break a fiber, it'll pull back into the bundle, if you will. But it actually improves your tear, tensile, and abrasion. So therefore, you got a 600 denier that you can rip like toilet paper, and you got this one that you'll pull your shoulders out trying to rip.
That's incredible.
So it all goes back to, like, as soon as somebody tells me, like, oh, it's all about the denier, you just know they don't know what they're talking about.
Wow, Paul, that test is really amazing, and that really gives us an idea of how, like, the original latitude, or not latitude, the original,
Badlands?
yeah, the latitude. Latitude was thick too. I was
Yeah,
thinking
actually, the latitudes were where we debuted that fabric.
So it's interesting. So you go from that to the Badlands that had a really thick denier to begin with, and now we have a jacket that's way more movable, way more flexible, yet way more abrasion resistance and tear resistant, which is impressive. So we're talking about taking these garments that were already world-class garments and finding new ways to make the fabric in order to make them lighter, stronger, and more protective. Now this is going to be a very interesting test. As you might be able to see, there's steam from this hot water coming up out of this glass. And we're going to take a look at how long it takes for a specific material that has Gore-Tex on it to be able to allow that vapor to escape.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to do the Gore-Tex 2-layer with the timer. We're going to tell you when we first see the steam, and then we're going to go a full 20 seconds and see how much moisture is actually on the glass. Here we go.
Start.
1,000, you can see it.
It's counting down
2,
right now.
2,000. So you've already got a full circle around that, so we don't need to count. So
It's fast.
we'll wait for the alarm. I can start to see full water droplets that are appearing. So we're going to be able to make, like, lots of water on this fabric after 20 seconds.
So if I was lost in the jungle, I could just sweat a lot and just lick my Gore-Tex.
So all right, here we go with the polyurethane, very common waterproof coating. However, it's easy to be waterproof, hard to be breathable, very hard to be waterproof, breathable, and durable. Here we go. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I'm starting to see just a skim 6,000. So started to see, but we'll go the
I'm
full
starting
20.
to see it. It's not even covered that whole surface yet. It's about 3/4 of the way covering that circle now. It's really slow to come through.
Yeah. But then the reality is it just goes away instantly. So as soon as I take it off, there's so little moisture on there. There was some moisture, but even a plastic bag is breathable to some point. But there's nothing, it's immediately dry.
Now, why would a test like this be important? Why is it important for your garments to be able to vent that quickly? Well, this little bottle right here, it's kind of disgusting, but it proves a point. What is this, Paul?
You know what this represents is an 8-hour period with high activity, your feet sweat 200 milliliters. That much sweat comes out of your feet.
Ugh.
And if you want to trap it like you see with the polyurethane, your wife is not going to be happy.
Stinky boots.
And with low activity, even at a desk in your office, 50 milliliters comes through. So whatever you can do to get that nasty moisture of sweat out and out of the system is the goal. And this just shows why it's so important to have good breathability. You know, we all know how uncomfortable it is when you get wet and how dangerous it is. When you guys did the test where one hand was freezing and one was not so cold because it was wet versus dry, and now you have the exact same, you know, a different phenomenon, but you've got to get rid of that moisture so you don't get cold.
Paul, this information is invaluable and I really appreciate it. It's the technology that goes in to the KLIM garments that really make them what they are. I'm Kyle from Chaparral Motorsports. Until next time, take care and ride safe.